grasses that we've talked about thus far have been introduced into North American landscapes and aren't actually native. But we live in the prairie after all, and there are many ornamental grasses that are beautiful and have transitioned from the prairie into our pots and home gardens. To take a closer look at those grasses, we're headed to the prairie at the Botanic Gardens. The first on our list is Indian grass. It will get 3 to 6 feet tall and produce light, airy plumes that are a bit more pointed. They are soft golden brown color and stand well above the foliage. While the summer foliage is more of a blue-green color, when the cooler temperatures of fall set in, that foliage will turn to a deep orange, almost purple color. Now, you might find some caterpillars and grasshoppers enjoying those leaf blades, but this just makes it an ideal habitat with both food and shelter for many game birds and songbirds. Indian grass can reseed pretty readily, and so you might want to deadhead it in order to maintain it in smaller gardens. Switchgrass is one of those native prairie grasses that's been highly cultivated for the horticulture industry, making it a great option for an ornamental grass. Now, it typically will range anywhere from 3 to 6 feet tall, but it actually has a massive fibrous root system that can go down up to 10 feet, which makes it a perfect plant to stabilize soil or help with erosion control. Because of those massive roots, once you plant it, you really don't want to have to move it. It works well as an individual plant, as a focal point, or it also works well as a windrow or a backdrop to a lot of your other landscape plants. Now, there are a few plants that are on the market, but when you plant one of these in your landscape, you want to make sure not to ever fertilize them because they're so adjusted to our native soils that any fertilizer will make them have aggressive growth and will cause them to flop over. A few cultivars that are on the market, one is Cloud 9, which gets a massive size of 6 to 8 feet. Another one is called Heavy Metal that really highlights the blue color and expresses that color in its foliage. And another cultivar that's popular in home landscapes is called Northwind because it tends to have sturdier stems and won't flop quite as much. Shenandoah is another cultivar that you might see on the market, and in addition to the blue-green foliage that it has, it also looks like it's been brushed with a burgundy color, which makes it a nice alternative to the invasive Japanese bloodgrass that we've mentioned previously. Little Bluestem is another prominent grass that we find in the prairie. It too has a very upright growth habit and intense blue foliage. After the first frost, you're going to see that foliage turn various shades of copper and crimson. While it's very hardy and a native, you might find that insects are eating on this plant, such as thrips and grasshoppers. But it is also host to 6 other skipper caterpillars, and songbirds enjoy those seeds. Again, there are a few different cultivars on the market. The Blues is noted for its striking blue-green foliage, but Jazz, which is about a foot shorter, won't flop quite as bad as the Blues. If you're looking at going a little bit larger, you might want to look at the Big Bluestem, which can get up to 5 to 8 feet tall. Now, it's one of our native prairie grasses that actually has the widest range, native range going from Canada down to Mexico and from Montana and Arizona all the way to the East Coast. This plant's also known as turkey foot and is easily identified by its turkey foot-like inflorescence that has 3 prongs to it. Now, there is one that has been an introduced cultivar, which is known as Blackhawks, and this particular Blackhawks cultivar offers a really interesting foliage. It starts out almost a dark red, purple, and will get even darker, turning almost black as the cooler season sets in. These 4 grasses that we've mentioned, Indian grass, switchgrass, Big Bluestem, and Little Bluestem, are known as the 4 horsemen of the prairie because they are the predominant grasses that have established in the tallgrass prairie. Blue Grama is another grass that is native and is a shorter option, only getting to be about 1.5 to 2 feet tall. This is also called Bouteloua gracilis, and it is a native hardy from zones 3 to zones 10, which really carries it from Canada all the way down to Mexico. Now, you'll often see it growing more in western Oklahoma here, and it likes kind of more of that short grass prairie climate. Now, what makes this unique is the seed heads that are horizontal to the rest of the foliage. So for that, some people call it eyebrow or eyelash grass. There is one cultivated variety out on the market that's popular, and it's known as Blonde Ambition, and it tends to have more of a soft yellow seed head that sets it off from the bluish green foliage that's underneath it. And it really is nice because the seed heads kind of wave like pendants above that foliage. Another great Bouteloua is side oats grama, and at a height of 2 to 3 feet, this plant works really well in a wildflower or meadow setting. And being native from Canada all the way down to Argentina, you know this is one tough plant. For a softer appearance, try Prairie Dropseed. It creates 2-foot tall, graceful tufts of grass that turn a coppery orange in the fall. It'll push up airy panicles that seem to float above the grass and have a notable foliage that some describe as either coriander or popcorn. A cultivar named Terra features many of these same characteristics, but has more of an upright form, giving the overall plant a vase shape and will stand even up to heavy snows. Terra received a 5-star rating from a 5-year trial conducted by the Chicago Botanic Garden. There are several Muhlenbergias that are native to North America, but one of the most popular is Muhlenbergia capillaris, also known as pink muhly grass. Now, this plant, we don't often feature it in the middle of the summer because it just kind of looks like an average grass. It's got very cylindrical, narrow leaves to it, but there's not much to see right now. But just wait until this fall, and it's one that when it does take stage, everyone takes notice, as these inflorescence that are soft, airy, and pink float above the grass. It's one that you'll definitely want to add to your garden and works well individually in your perennial garden or in mass. Another light, airy North American native that you might try in your garden is Mexican feathergrass. Now, this isn't quite as hardy as some of the other grasses that we've talked about. It really will only perennialize up to zone 7, but you might find that it's a reseeding annual that will come back in cooler climates. Because this grass only gets 2 to 3 feet tall, it works really well in many landscapes, either individually or in mass. Often it's used in containers, and it can also be used in the landscape in difficult to maintain areas. So there you have it, tall to short, blue to pink. There are a lot of native North American grasses that add ornamental value into the landscape. Not only that, but they'll also be a great habitat for wildlife.
We hope you enjoyed this video. It's part of our Oklahoma Gardening YouTube channel. You can also find even more videos on our OK Gardening Classics YouTube channel. And join us on social media for great gardening tips, photos, and discussions.